This meeting is being recorded.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. My name is Brett Augustine. I'm a business advisor for North Central Texas Small Business Development Centers, which is a leading provider for assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, which allows us to offer these services at no cost. Today, we're going to be discussing team building activities you can do, presented by Ms. Lorna Kibbe. And we're really happy to have her. If you have any questions today, please put them in the chat box, or if you're seeing this afterwards and you have any questions, please feel free to email us and we'll try to get you those answers from Lorna, and we'll get them back to you. If you don't know who Lorna is, please allow me just a moment to let you know. She's an ASBDC conference speaker, and she has over 10 years experience working at the SBDC Florida Gulf Coast University. As well, she's a leadership expert. And we're so happy to have her. If you haven't, by the way, checked out her book, which is available on Amazon, you should ask her about that. Hopefully she'll say that at the end of it. I found it to be very, very, very informative. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Lorna Kibbe.
Well, hi, everyone. This is exciting. Today, I am really excited for this session because this is about activities that you can do with your team. And, you know, I think that many times when we're having team meetings, we get really kind of in a rut sometimes and a little bit bogged down by the hard work that we do on our teams. And it doesn't have to be like that. There are a lot of really fun things you can do. And I'm not talking so much about games, although some of them kind of have some game qualities, but I'm really talking about activities that stimulate thinking, creativity, trust on the team, better decisions, and ultimately great results. That's the kind of activities that we're going to talk about today. I have several examples to show you. Let me share my screen and get this going. That's okay with everybody. You ready for me there, Brett? Here we go. Oh, I'm sharing your screen. Let me try and share my screen now. Do you see my screen? Brett, am I good? All right, yeah. Very good, very good. All right, so let's play a little game here. Imagine this, all right? You come in to today's session, and this is what you see on, uh-oh, guys. I have a little problem. I think I told you that my mouse decided to die, and I could do it anyway, but I'm searching for that right now.
Your mouse is trying to prove you wrong. It's okay.
It is. This is I deserve this. This is my fault. Whoa. Aha. Don't worry, guys. Everything's going to be fine.
You can also just push the right button on your cursors at the bottom where it says page left and right and all that. That should do it. I say that with confidence.
Right. Page up, page down. Yeah.
Right and left.
Okay. I'm going to have to stop share for a second and see what I got going on here. Sorry about this.
And it's
this
okay.
Is a little problem on my end. I'm using different equipment today, and maybe I'm not as sharp with this as one might think, like I thought. So let me try this. Just give me 1 second. I get this fixed for you.
And it wasn't page up, by the way. It's just arrow keys.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. They're just shortcuts I learned
that,
over the
that would
years.
explain why it didn't work, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if I can switch this out. Wow. I apologize. This is just doing weird things to me.
No worries.
And, maybe this is it. Now, if I can find my Zoom call again. Well, can you see that?
I see you.
You can see me. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
I'm going to share my screen real quick for just a moment while you go ahead and get that. And thank everybody again for joining us. It's not a problem. Lorna, you just take your time. When you're ready, you just push screen share, the one that you want to share.
All right. Let me just see if I can figure out why this is being so difficult with me. I think it's because I told my mouse I would do it without him. My mouse is rebelling. Oh, no, you won't.
And we even had a rehearsal. Carmen, by the way, it's good to see you again as well. Happy to have you.
I'm sorry?
It's good to have you back again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we may be getting close. All right. What do you see? Do you see my screen?
No, ma'am.
You do not?
Now I do.
You do?
Now I do. Yes.
Okay.
Took just a moment, I guess, to link up.
It has weird stuff over here, right? Or
No, no.
everything looks good?
Everything
Oh my
looks good
gosh.
on my end.
Okay, fantastic. Then let's move forward. Let me know if that's not true because I can't see you anymore.
I don't know why that is, but I had
Okay.
that issue earlier. Mhm.
It's okay. You just yell at me if anything's wrong, all right? Okay. so
Okay,
here
I
we
see
are.
chalk.
This is what I wanted you to see. Imagine that you walk into a room, and I've already done this on the board. I've made this little chalk dot, and I ask you, what is this? What do you think this is? And most of you would probably say, well, it looks like you went to the board and made a dot with your chalk, right?
Mhm.
But this is very interesting. There's a book called A Whack on the Side of the Head, and it's by Roger von Eck. And he tells the story about a teacher who put this dot on the board and had a group of high school sophomores come into the room, and they asked the kids, what do you think that is? Every one of the sophomores saw a chalk dot. That's all they could see. Next, she went to a kindergarten class, and she asked the kindergartners, what do you think this is? Now you can imagine their imagination was a little more rampant. They saw things like the top of a telephone pole. They saw a star. They saw a pebble. Somebody said a rotten egg. Somebody said a cigar butt. They had all kinds of answers, a squashed bug. There were all kinds of answers for what this was. And the reason I'm starting with this is because like I said, I think this is what happens with teamwork. We kind of get in a rut and we don't really think about, how things can be looked at differently. And if we can just do some activities and do some things with the team to help us think differently and more creatively, it can make a really huge difference in what's going on with our team. There we go. So we've been working on this model for this entire series. You may be aware, this is the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team model from Patrick Lincolni. And what we're doing here is we've been taking a really deep look at this model and how everything fits within it. And last week, we talked about making decisions, and we took a really deep dive into that, making decisions. And we learned that when there is trust and we can engage in healthy conflict, which we did a session on conflict as well, then we're able to reach decisions that everyone could commit to. And when we have everyone on the same page, then we can more easily hold each other accountable and get the results that we're looking for. Activities help us to think in different ways. They really encourage participation, they boost engagement, and they contribute to building cohesive teams. And that's what these activities are about. What I have for you is 10 activity ideas that you can use. And as we go along, 10 lessons learned from doing these activities. Now, we're going to talk about these 10 activities, but full disclosure, it's not these. These are probably some activities that you've seen at some team building workshops you've been to. I'm not talking about these kinds of activities. The activities that I'm going to show you today to help you think about how to help your team don't require any special equipment at all. There's no budget request. There's no money involved. They're not physically challenging. And they're activities that you can do in the team to help you solve team problems that are always relevant to your issues. The reason I love these pictures is because I've done these activities, probably some of you are. There was a time earlier in my career when I was doing a lot of team building classes, and I had a really particularly challenging group of mechanics who worked in a plant that repairs turbine generators. Yeah, turbine generator repair mechanics. You can imagine they were big, burly, outdoor men. And I was worried about how I was going to keep them interested in a session all day on teamwork, because these are not the kind of folks that are used to sitting still. So I went all out. I did tons of research. I created all of these amazing team activities, a lot like these, where you go outside and you do things. And I made a little obstacle course for them. I mean, what a day. It was amazing. It was so much fun. I bought all kinds of equipment for it to be able to do these activities. I just went all out and tried to make this great. I take them out for the activities thing and they're going to love this. We're going to be outside the whole time. They're going to have a blast. Well, they weren't as excited as I thought they might be. They did the activities and a few of them seemed to really have a really great time, but a few of them didn't think it was as fun as everybody else. The thing that really was disturbing to me was that when we came back inside, the groaning began. Oh, I can't stand the heat out there. I was looking forward to being inside an air-conditioned room all day. I think I hurt my bad knee stepping over that rope. That wasn't fun. Oh, I think I twisted my ankle. And the truth is that several months later, one of the managers told me that one of their employees was still fighting with them over an ankle injury that they got at that team exercise. I felt terrible about that. And I realized you really have to watch out for physical limitations when you do those things. They can be fun, but it has to be the right group of people, the right place, a lot of things. I'm not recommending that you put yourself out for those kind of activities unless you hire a professional and take them to a ropes course where they have, safety equipment. So this is my first lesson learned for you. Be aware of any physical limitations that your team has. If you're doing any kind of activities, even exercises, there are all kinds of possible limitations. This one, how about this? This is so simple. I took rope and I made rope circles that were about this big with rope. And as a team activity, the team's job, they had 7 people on their team, was to find a way to get all the feet of all the team into this circle. So they had to take this rope circle, put it on the floor and get everybody's feet inside the circle. Well, the truth is it's not possible because the rope is too small, but the whole activity is to watch them try to problem solve and go through it and figure it out, so it's a really fun activity and they enjoy trying to solve the problem. The way you solve the problem is in fact to sit down on the floor with everybody's legs outstretched, and then you take the rope and place it over the toes, and then it'll fit. Everybody can get their feet in the circle. So finally, at the end of activity, everybody was excited. People were up, they were talking about it. Oh, that was kind of cool. Here's what we did. And so wouldn't let us do this because we were talking about the different roles on the teams and all this. But I noticed there was one person who was not getting up. And at first I thought, but now I'm starting to get a little worried. So I go over and it's like, hey, are you okay? And she said, I can't get up. I cannot get up from this floor. And I knew that when I sat down, I can't get up. I'm like, okay, how can we help you get up? It took 4 participants to lift her off the floor to help her get up. She just had no strength or ability to get up from that position. Embarrassing for her, embarrassing for everyone. It was such a simple thing. So these big fancy games with all the physical stuff that looks so fun, the trust fall, somebody falls over and gets a concussion. No. Those are not the kind of activities that I'm talking about today. Much more brain type activities. And here's the first one. Let's get to know each other. Now, the goal of this activity is to increase trust within the team. You'll remember from our model that trust is the very first building block, and it's the widest of all. We need to be able to build trust on a team. We can't expect people to have healthy debate if they don't trust one another. We can't expect them to commit if they haven't been able to express their opinions because they trust one another. That's why it's shaped like a pyramid. So I've got a couple of activities right off the top here to just talk about working on trust. Now, this might sound a little simple to you when you think about it, but I'm telling you, I've done this activity time after time after time, and it always has a huge impact. And it's very simple. Here's how it works. You simply get in a team meeting and you're going to go person to person. You're going to ask each person to share answers to these questions. Now, here's the thing about this activity and all the activities. You need to modify it for you. Modify it for you. That's okay. I'm giving you the ideas of these activities, but these are the questions I use. Where did you grow up? How many siblings do you have? And where do you fall in the sibling order? Are you the middle child? Are you the oldest child? You learn a lot from people when you learn about where they were in that sibling order. And then what was an important or unique challenge of your childhood? And you ask everybody to really give extensive answers. And if someone starts not answering, then you probe, ask some more questions to get this information. What's starting to happen is we're understanding people at a much different level than what we see every day at work. And one particular case that I did this with, which this is, I don't know, this is a sad story, but it really changed the dynamic of the team, because we had one person on this team, and they had asked me to come in and help, who was really a jerk. I mean, he was just a jerk. He was like a know-it-all, and he didn't play nicely with others. He knew what he was doing. He was highly competent, but he just was not a team player. And that can be really damaging for a team. So we did this exercise, and you should have heard the story that he told. He grew up, he starts out in his sarcastic, way that he answers everything. Where did you grow up? On whoever's couch was available. And he was serious. And he had told us the story about how he lost his mom and dad really young. His mom ran off. His dad, something happened to him. He didn't have a place to stay. His entire high school years, he didn't have a home. Whatever friend would let him sleep on the couch for a couple of nights until they got tired of him, and then he would move on. And what the most important lesson that he learned was that you don't count on anybody but yourself. There's no one you can depend on. There's nobody you can trust. There's nobody going to take care of you. Right? But what an important thing for those folks to know about their teammate. Because what's this mean? They're never going to overcome those issues. They're never going to overcome that with him. The good news is, when the team did learn that, they were so much more tolerant that they were able to work together in a much better fashion than they had in the past, until eventually he left the team. But those are the kinds of things that can happen just when people really start to get to know each other and understand where you're coming from. And that was the most drastic one I've had. But the thing you should know about this, and my lesson learned on this one, sometimes it gets really emotional. And that's okay. Sometimes when we do that activity and people get into it, there's tears, there's laughter. It gets emotional. But this is all about getting to know each other. And once we understand each other and know each other, then we're getting to trust. And that's what this activity is all about. Here's another one. Establishing ground rules. And the goal for this is to improve trust and reduce conflict by setting expectations for behavior during meetings. Again, this may sound like, what do you mean establish ground rules? That seems kind of silly, but you know what? Think about it. Has your team ever sat down and established the ground rules for your meetings and for the way your team works together? Chances are you haven't. We usually leave that up to what we know as norms. This is the way we do it because this is the way we've always done it. And we don't have these serious discussions about how we think things should go. For example, talk about this: participation, communication, and problem solving. Participation. What about attendance? Is it mandatory? If I have to miss, when is it okay for me to miss? If I get a call during the meeting, should I leave? What should I do? When are we going to start this meeting? When are we going to stop this meeting? And be specific with those and agree that we're going to start on time and we're going to stop on time. Or we're going to start on time, but everybody agrees that if we're really having a good time, we can go for 30 minutes later. I mean, talk about these kind of things. How is the team supposed to behave? Otherwise, what you have is when the meeting's supposed to end at 10 o'clock, somebody's in the middle of something, you haven't finished the agenda, people just keep talking. Some people check out of the room completely without leaving, and other people just get up and walk out. Is that okay? Have you talked about it? So just that kind of thing, what do you expect? And if I miss a meeting, what's my role? What's my responsibility for getting the information that I missed? What about communication? How are you going to facilitate the meetings? Who's going to be in charge? It doesn't have to be the team leader every time. Are you keeping notes? Who's going to keep notes? I hope you're rotating that. It's not the same person every time. Or do you just assume the same person's going to do it because they have that title? But you know that somebody that does that same thing every time can't really participate as a team member. Is that what you want? Is that what you're looking for? Probably not. What's the process? How is this going to work? And how about when you're solving problems? How does that work? Assignments. How are you going to make assignments? How are you going to get consensus? Are you going to vote? If you are going to vote, what's that look like? If you're doing majority rules, who's the majority? Who's in there? How many people can be missing from a meeting? I could go on and on. You know what I'm saying here, right? So all these discussions. Oh, is it okay to cuss during a meeting? Is it okay if you raise your voice? Is it okay to walk out of a meeting? What should we be doing? And this is a great exercise for teams to do, because that way everybody knows the expectations. You know, they know that we've all agreed that if you don't say anything, Thomas, during the meeting, we're going to call you out. And we're not picking on you. These are our ground rules. This is what we do. So you work as a team to set these rules of how you're going to do things as a team, so that you just don't leave it to chance. And you can, that also, once you've done that, allows you to have open discussions in the future when anything comes up. The lesson here is that when you do these activities, sometimes these lessons will have to be reinforced. I have seen teams do a great job with this ground rule thing and then forget the whole thing after they walked out. So if you do that, I'd recommend, a flip chart, keep track of it, and then hang that flip chart back up every meeting until everybody has it down. And then if you need to change something up, you can. So sometimes you have to reinforce those activities. Here's number 3. Brett, the screen's all okay? Everything's fine? Good, thank you. Okay, here's number 3. Some structured internal networking social time. The goal here is to increase trust again with the team by searching for common ground. Now, what am I talking about here? Okay, this is a sample. How about a bingo game? Have you ever played a bingo game in a meeting? You probably have. What if you make it specific to you? What if you customize it for you? I went to this site, myfreebingocards.com, and in 5 minutes made this bingo card that we could use for the group that's been attending these webinars. You can put anything you want in here. You can even use it virtually. You can send 30 cards out free. You can print 30 cards free. So you can go and make it say anything you want, and then make a game of it. You could look up the rules on Google. I just wrote down the basic rules here, but just think at this. If your employees are discussing this about each other, they're getting to know each other better, which means that's going to increase trust. And that's what we were going for. And it's kind of a fun way to do it. So I think you can probably read on the screen pretty well some of the things that I used as an example, and you can see, certified in something. Can you just hear the whole discussion around that? Are you certified in anything? Yeah, I'm certified in this. What is that? What'd you have to do that? I didn't know that about you. Or you can see how these discussions would come about. Prefers to work alone. You like to work alone, or you prefer to work around people? Oh, you like to work alone? Oh, that's interesting. Because I thought you just didn't like me. And there's others there that are written to kind of get a conversation going so that people will get to know each other, which means we're going to increase trust. Now, these are custom made. Like I said, there's a ton of free stuff out there. Just Google it. You can also use trivia contests. You can use crosswords. Sometimes I'll do a crossword puzzle. Like when we've gone over a new policy or something, I'll do a crossword policy with the basic words in it and let the system automatically generate it for me and give it out as something to do as a team afterwards, so that it reinforces the concepts. Word search, some people love those. A Jeopardy game, there's free Jeopardy games online. You can create your own Jeopardy games and you can play them during your team meeting if you want. So all of this stuff is out there for you. It's available free. Anything that you do needs to be custom made just for your team and relevant to what your team is doing. The lesson here, I put one of my trivia questions up for you. It's to remind me to tell you the story of how I use this. This is one of the things I do. I do a trivia contest whenever I start a team meeting. And I have like 10 trivia questions. And most of them are kind of trick questions. Some of them will be about the organization, like the year that you were founded, the year that you became incorporated, something like that. And I always use this question. And it's really fun because nobody can figure out how many animals of each sex Moses takes on the ark, but they argue it and they come up with a number for me every time, even though we all know that Moses didn't have an ark at all. It was Noah, but they don't even see that. They argue the numbers, they have a blast with it. And then what I do, I use that with the quote from Ken Blanchard when he says, "None of us is as smart as all of us." Because when we do it as a team, I have them do it individually and mess it up. And then when they get together as a team, they get a lot more answers right. And that proves the point that teamwork is valuable. So that's how I use it. So there's just all kinds of things that you can do like that and customize it for your team. The lesson here, you have to think about these things. You have to plan them out. You have to think about how they're going to go. So they have to be planned out. It takes a little more work, but it's really, really worth it. Okay, how are we doing? Here's number 4. We got 10 of these things. We got to keep going. How about a debate? There's an idea, a formal debate. You know, I love that in our society, we think an argument is a terrible thing. You know, if we argue, if we disagree, oh my gosh. But when we call it a debate, it's cool. A debate is like, you know, a college competition, you know, that we're all excited to participate in, high school debate teams. So how about if we have a debate? This is to help us practice handling disagreement by teaching people how to engage in productive conflict. Remember, we've said productive conflict is good when it's productive conflict, and this is a way to teach it. So how about if you go on Google and you Google the instructions for formal debate? But it goes pretty much like this. You pick an issue that's something you all want to talk about. Maybe not too hot, but then again, maybe you want something that's really hot, but something that you know where there's 2 sides to this story and your team's wiggling, they can't make a decision. Let's set up a formal debate. Let's assign people to be on the pro side and people to be on the con side. And then I say look up the rules, because there's all kinds of rules about how long you let each person talk and which person goes first and, you know, that kind of thing. So let them have a formal debate. It's really fascinating. I use this in a certification class that I do. And one of the things that we teach in this class is whether we should have a formal evaluation system. That's the whole thing. We have to teach how to evaluate employees. And this is a government class. We have some places in the world, actually in Florida, where they've done away with performance evaluation. It's archaic, it's not productive, and they've just done away with it. Now you can imagine that most government employees, managers, and leaders are like, oh, horrors, we couldn't possibly do away without that. Oh, we couldn't do away with performance appraisals. So we set up a formal debate, and we have half of the room argue that we must have a formal performance evaluation system, and the other half has to argue we don't need this formal system, we can do without it, we'd be better without it. And then they have a formal debate. And it's great. They all get into it. They argue the point, and they make every point that I could have possibly taught them in a 3-hour lecture. Right? They make everything. Usually the answer in the end is they kind of agree that we need some kind of a formal system, that the one that we have maybe isn't exactly what we like, but yeah, we probably need some way of giving formal feedback. But it's great. Like I said, they bring up everything that I would have taken a 3-hour lecture to tell them, and they have a great time with it. And plus they come with all kinds of creative solutions and ideas. It's fascinating. So why not try that? Have a formal debate. Interesting. Or how about this? You appoint a secret rebel. Secretly, you appoint somebody to take the other side, just an individual. And this is to prevent groupthink. You'll recall that we've talked about groupthink and defined that in other sessions. Sometimes it's the failure to manage disagreement. And people sometimes will just go along with things because, well, it's easier. The Abilene paradox. So with the secret rebel, your instructions here are to secretly appoint a team member to be the dissenter and explain to them privately that this is their role. Whatever the team decides, they should find the bad side of it and try to convince them the other way, go against whatever they say. And then at the end of the meeting, publicly thank the employee and tell everybody what happened. But next time, rotate it to somebody else. You could even appoint them publicly, but it's kind of fun to do it in secret, the secret rebel. So that's a way of just kind of upsetting the team when everything's going too smooth. If you have team meetings where it seems like it's just too easy, everybody comes in, everybody nods their head and we're done, you should be afraid, because that means that they're not really giving you their opinions. They're not really discussing issues. They're not really thinking outside the box. And this is a way to maybe deal with some of that and get around it. So there's another idea for you. The lesson on this one that I've learned is sometimes employees may get a little too carried away when you assign them a role like this, even with the debate. Sometimes they get a little too into it. And that's a risk you take. So you might think about the person you're appointing in this position, even as the head of your debate team, because some people get a little carried away and it can go a little too far. You kind of have to manage it. All right. How's this going? Is this going good for everybody? We have 5 more to go. Ready? All right. And then I'll take some questions. Let me go through the rest. All right. Number 6, consensus. We've talked about consensus before, I know. And if you've been on the call and you've heard it before, that's okay. I'm glad you're here again, because to me, this is one of the big things we're missing. This is so important that I have to talk about it all the time. I'm trying to change the world by understanding consensus. With a team, what we really need is to get everybody committed to whatever decision we make. And the only way you're going to get me to commit is to make sure that I've had an opportunity to weigh in on the decision. So consensus here doesn't mean that everybody nods their head and agrees. That's not really what consensus is. Consensus means that everybody agrees to support whatever decision we make going forward. Of all the options, of all the things we've talked about, this is the best choice. Even though it's maybe not the one I would choose, I understand why it is. This is the best one for our team, and I agree to support it. And in doing this, here's how it looks. You review your final choice, summarize agreements that you've made for the team, ask for final thoughts, and then you go one person at a time. One person at a time. So let me ask you this, John. We've made this decision. This is our final choice. We've agreed that we're going to do this going forward. I want to just check in with everybody to see if there's any final thoughts. And I'm going to go person by person. So John, when you leave this meeting today, will you be able to support this decision going forward? And I watch for his reaction. If he rolls his eyes, I need to stop and check in with him and listen to what he has to say. Or if he gives me some kind of nonverbal that indicates that he's not with me. And we do this person by person because we want them to have that opportunity to say, you know what, I don't really love this, but I see why we're doing it. And yes, I will support it. That's what we're going for, because that's how we're getting commitment. If we don't take time to do this, we're going to have somebody walk outside the door and go, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's no way this is going to work. And I'm sure not going to do it. And the whole thing is just wasted. And sometimes we even see sabotage. So this consensus thing is really important for us to make sure we go one person at a time to make sure everyone can support whatever decision the team has made. The lesson here is this: sometimes a leader has to force participation, maybe gently, but sometimes we have to force it. We have to call out everyone, one person at a time. You can't allow anyone to get away with not giving their opinion, with not weighing into whatever you're working on. And honestly, I always say it's a real shame when you have someone that gets away with it, because they're a talented member of your team. You want their opinion. You want what they're thinking. One person at a time. Sometimes we have to force it. Okay, here we go. Oh, I love this. Creating a rally cry. And this is to harness and focus our energy on achieving results as we move towards getting those great results that we're looking for. A rally cry, it's very interesting. It's kind of like a cheer that the team has when you make that decision of what you're going to do, and everybody says, okay, this is what we're going to do. And you have this rally cry that everybody uses, kind of like, you know, their rally cry. Let me tell you a story about one. I think this will make it clear. I was talking with this about a team of healthcare professionals. I had a lot of healthcare professionals in the room, and they were from all different campuses. And I was talking about a rally cry and how important it is to do this. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. And I had one leader who raised her hand, and she said, you know, I totally agree with you. And I'm like, I love you already. She said, no, I agree with you because we have a rally cry and it really works for us. And I said, you have a rally cry? She said, yes, my team has a rally cry. a short, sweet statement that probably only means anything to us, but it motivates us whenever we hear it. I'm like, oh, please, will you share it? She said, well, I'm not against sharing it, but you're not going to know what it means. Nobody will understand it. And I said, all the better. It's for your team. So please. She said, okay. So she sits up straight. And honestly, when I tell this story, it's like, I still can't get over this because I can, you can see things in your head. I wish so much I had this thing filmed, because when she said the rally cry, you could physically tell which of the people in the room worked in that team, because there was a physical change in those people. I'm serious. Every one of them sat up straight, chin up, started looking around like they were beating their chest. It was great. So here was their rally cry. She says, we are the mothership. We are the mothership. What is that? We are the mothership. And her team is all sitting up, and I'm like, you're right. We don't understand it, but that's pretty interesting. Somebody way in the back of the room raised their hand and said, excuse me, I don't work for that team, but I think I understand exactly what that rally cry is about. Okay. Let's hear what you think. And they can tell you if you're right. He said, I work in one of the newer hospitals. We have amazing technology and amazing advantages because we have a new hospital. They work in a 100-year-old hospital. It's the oldest hospital that we own. And on that campus, they are really short of all this technology and all these advantages that we have. He said, at my hospital, we have all of our pharmaceuticals coming up through little tubes in the wall. They shoot right up to the room. And in their hospital, somebody has to go to the basement to get a pill. He said, they are the mothership because they were first and they're still rocking it. And the leader says, that's it. You got it. Isn't that amazing? And that's what they came up with. We are the mothership. And that several of the employees afterwards came up to me and said, I know this sounds weird, but it really is very motivational for us, because if I'm having a really bad day, and it's not easy on a hospital ward, if I'm having a really bad day, one of my nurses, my co-nurses, will come up and just bump me and say, we're the mothership, baby. And she said, honest to goodness, it changes my outlook like that. You're right. We're the mothership. I got this. That's what a rally cry is all about. The thing about a rally cry is it changes a lot of times when you have a new project. You can use that for a new project, a new decision, a new initiative. And then when you achieve it, maybe you change it down the line, but it really unifies the team. Everybody's together on it. That's like what we're all working for. It's like a great vision, something we really aspire to do. So how do you do this? Look at your goals, choose the most important goal. In other words, the main thing that's going on right now. Like, what's the main thing that your team needs to focus on? What has to happen right now for you to be successful? What's your main thing? And then brainstorm some catchy phrases and just let people go wild and be creative and thinking, what is this phrase going to be? Short, sweet, something that'll be motivational to all of us. And as a team, come to consensus, and we know how to do that, on the rally cry, and then use it. Make it well known, make a poster, make a little card for everybody to carry around, and just keep reminding people, if you've done it right, it is going to be something that's going to be very motivational and something that they will carry forward. We're the mothership, baby. That's all it takes. Love it, right? So create a rally cry. Lesson on this one: sometimes great levels of chaos produce great results. So let them get crazy with this and enjoy it. All right, number 8. Maybe some of you have done this before in kind of a strategic planning meeting. Do more, do less, and stop. This is to check on perceived job tasks and priorities, just to make sure that the things that your team are doing are the things that they need to be doing. The way that it usually works is you put up 3 pieces of flip chart paper and people circle the room and they use their markers to mark where they are. So I think we should do more of this. This is great. This is a really important thing. And I don't know why we're spending so much time on this. Let's do this less. And I think we should stop completely doing this. My best example with this one happened to me personally with my team. we did this activity, and on the let's stop list, somebody put something that was ridiculous. They said we should stop doing monthly reports. Now, we had a lot of monthly reports. I mean, I think I had 15 supervisors, and I think on that team, they probably spent at least 4 hours a month doing the reports at the end of the month, a half a day each person. And they said, stop doing them. And I'm like, yeah, that's funny. Have you lost your mind? But they made the argument. They said, well, what happens to our monthly reports? And I said, well, I send them to, central office. And they said, well, what happens there? I said, well, they use them for stuff. Good question. They probably send them to state. It's like, well, they said, well, it's just, we spend so much time on this. We'd just like to know that they're really necessary. Like, okay, now I could be the kind of manager who says, that's funny, we have to do these and that's all there is to it. But I said, let me find out. So I called the central office and said, hey, when I send you those monthly reports, what do you do with them? We have a file cabinet right over there and we file them. I said, well, then what happens? If anybody ever asks us, we've got those reports right there. So you don't send them to state? We have a filing cabinet. I'm like going in a circle. I'm like, I'm not sure we need to spend so much time doing these monthly reports. What? We have to do these monthly reports. A couple of months later, I stopped sending the monthly reports. I held them. I just didn't send them. Everybody did them, but I held them and no one noticed. And after the second month, I went to central office and made my appeal and told them the whole story. And guess what? We stopped doing monthly reports. It's like we were capturing the information in other ways. What they had us doing was archaic, and we were doing it because we'd always done it. But because of automation, most of the stuff was being captured in other ways. That's why they weren't sending them to state, because state already had the data. We were just doing these papers because somebody was putting them in a filing cabinet. So sometimes you find out amazing things when you do this kind of activity. And also you get a good feeling of your priorities. Like when somebody says we should do less of this or we should do more of this, it's like, but that's one of our major priorities. Wait, where does that fit in? So this can give you a lot of information on what's going on with your team. So this is a great activity to do with your team, to get a lot of information and to strengthen your team because they're all sharing in the information. The lesson learned here is we need clear instructions and rules that have to be shared. And sometimes we need to explain to our folks the rules that don't exist. Like, like in this case, in my rules, when I explained this activity, I said, you can put anything you want. Even if it does sound ridiculous, let's explore it. And that's why someone had the courage to put down, let's not do reports. Do you know how much time we save? 15 supervisors, 4 hours a month, every month. That's a lot of work saved. So sometimes, you have to tell them, give them permission and make it clear that this is what we're doing and it's okay to do this, or this is how we're going to do it. Just make sure your instructions and your rules are clear to everybody. Okay, number 9. This is interesting. It's personal, looking at individual problems. And the goal here is to help individual team members with problems that are impacting team results. Sometimes your team members are not doing things because they just don't know how. They have problems that they don't know how to solve. And not all of our team members are willing to speak up and admit that. And part of peer accountability is for us to be able to talk to our team members about why this piece isn't being done and what we can do to help them. But it's really hard because if I'm the only one that seems to be having a problem with this and everybody else is doing fine, then I feel in a really bad spot. So this is an activity that kind of gets at that. There's a lot you can learn from this. You may identify some issues that are really blocking your forward progress. And also this is going to increase your trust because I'm going to see that other team members are having problems too. And here's how this works. Give everybody an index card. And they write their stated problem on the index card. They get to just write a problem that they're having on the index card. And then you pass it. You pass it to the person to your left. And the person on the left writes down a possible solution. Oh, I had this happen once, and they write down a solution. Then you pass it again. And you keep passing it until you get it all the way around and you get your own card back. Now, if you have 6 people on a team, you just got 5 possible answers on the back of that card. And then to debrief, you can talk about the kind of problems that came up and did you come up with a solution? And, you can just imagine where it can go from there. There's all kinds of good things that will go from there. Doesn't that sound interesting? Let everybody talk about their problems in that way. It's very non-threatening. And when I've been in a team when we did that, man, I got some great ideas and I really appreciated it. Yeah. And what I find about this one too, is that this one usually lasts even after the meeting, because when someone knows that you have that problem and they've been through it, they know what to do, they keep coming back to help. So talk about building your team. That really, really, really helps a lot. The lesson learned on this one, and this is kind of a tough one. One missing team member can have a severe impact. And this is why I go back to ground rules, like what happens if somebody's not there. If you have a team that's working together on a problem, a situation, know that every team member is very, very important. And when you have a team meeting and someone's missing, there's something missing. One of the talented people on your team is there and they're going to miss out. They're not going to be part of solutions, so they're going to have a problem committing and buying in. They're not going to hear what's going on. They're going to have questions that have already been answered. It's going to be a waste of time. It's going to be inefficient. And if you're doing this activity in particular, then you have a whole team member who had a chance to voice their problems that didn't get to do it because they weren't there. So you have to think real seriously about your team meetings and whether they're mandatory and what you do when somebody's not there. It's a big deal when somebody's not there. It changes the dynamic of your entire team. Okay, and my last one today, before I take some questions and then give you some other ideas about doing this, is called Pass the Oscar. I love this one, so I saved it for last. So the goal here is to simultaneously provide opportunities to identify potential problem areas, have meaningful conversations on specific topics, and share ideas modeled by others. Now, you know that one of the things that we know from research from Gallup is that one of the reasons that people stay in the jobs they're in is because they value an opportunity to learn and grow, and they're given that opportunity. Talk about an opportunity to learn and grow. This is what we're going to do. We're going to create this rotating schedule, and we're going to assign responsibility each team member in turn for leading the activity. Their mission is to go out to YouTube and find one 5-minute video or less, no more than 5 minutes, that they feel is relevant to the work team, that they believe the team should talk about. The employee gets to show the video, and then they have 3 discussion questions ready for use after the video is played. Can you just imagine the value of this? I mean, think about it. First of all, you've got a team member out there learning and growing like crazy while they select the video they want to bring to their team. Look how much they're learning while they're out there searching for what they want to bring. Second, whatever they bring is probably some issue that they feel the team needs to address that hasn't been addressed. Isn't that good to know? Third, the team is discussing this issue openly and just talk about achieving results, improving their possibilities of making great decisions and achieving great results because they're learning and growing as a team. I think this one has so many possibilities. It's really interesting because whether you're doing a virtual team or you're doing, a team in person, it works for that. So many possibilities here. I've seen this work so well because the challenge of rotating it and having everybody choose just one little free video. Think about it. It's free and they're learning and they're sharing that learning. Amazing. Oh, I love it. It has to be relevant though. Any game or activity has to be relevant. Any of this that I've been talking about. And that's why I focused on the activities that I focused on, because anything that you do with your team needs to be relevant to your team about the work that your team is doing, not random games. We don't have time for random games. That's what you do on your lunch hour. These are things that seriously impact the effectiveness of your team. I'm going to stop and just see if we have some questions before I close. I have a few other ideas for you, but let me just see how we're doing so far with all these lessons learned.
You're doing great. Are you kidding? These are great ideas, every single one of them. And they bring something fun that, you don't have to actually pay somebody to come. And I don't know about you, but I've tried to climb the pole and I'm scared of heights, of course. So you got to stand on top of the pole. That one blew me away. And they said, don't worry, we got you.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
Doing that.
so I like these better. They seem safer and they seem relevant. So I love that. I think this is some great stuff. We do have a couple of things. If you do have a question, please either just raise your hand, let me see you, and I'll let you ask the question out to Lorna directly, or you can write it in the chat, as some of you have already. I just want to go ahead and address one of them real quick. It says, what is the normal number of team members that make these beneficial? Do they work on small teams?
Okay, and that's a question in general about the size of a team.
Mhm.
Experts will tell us, you know, a really good tight team is usually 5 to 7 people. Experts will tell us that's probably not realistic in most organizations. Most of the time, you know, we have teams that are bigger than that. If I'm working with a big team, like say I have a team of 12 people, then what I'll try to do is put together a couple of breakouts with 6 each for the same team. The thing that we don't think about sometimes as team leaders is that when you do have a larger team, these little breakout rooms that we're using on Zoom are cool. They work in person just as well. As a matter of fact, that's where they started. So even during the meeting, you know, have a breakout, just let people talk one-on-one for a little while. Like that card exercise we did where we passed the problem. When it's over, have them turn to their neighbor and just talk about what they just learned from all these solutions, what they think they can use. So don't use breakouts if you need to make some of these things work in a larger team.
That's a good question. Thank you for that answer. Anybody else have any questions about some of these things that we're discussing today? I see Joanne almost wants to say something, maybe, no? I saw you get up straight there. It's okay. You can unmute if you'd like to ask it.
No, sorry, I was so interested and I couldn't find the link until, that's why I'm so late. So
Oh,
I feel so bad, but I love these last 2 that I saw. So I guess I will ask a question. They're great, especially the pass the card.
Mhm.
How do you do all this on Zoom? Because I'm looking to spice up my trainings on Zoom, and the activities that way are so much more challenging.
They sure are. They sure are. That's for sure. Zoom would be a challenge for that one.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, anybody think of a good solution how to do that on Zoom?
break them up into breakouts. Each card would be a breakout.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Wait, each
So
card
just
is
have 2 people do it together and then switch them around. Yeah.
I have to think of it logistically, but you may have something there. Yeah.
Thank you, Brett. Yeah.
It's my solution on the back of the card.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Yeah.
great question.
You would
too.
just essentially do it verbally,
Right.
2 people at a
Yeah.
time.
And rotate the room. So
Right.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask Lorna at this point?
Lauren, I thought that was a good presentation. I just wanted to comment on that because, you know, teamwork is just so important nowadays. But Joanne's point to the Zoom really does, you know, in today's situation, it really does make it a lot more difficult to do that. So, but, you know, we manage, right?
Yeah. And, you know, interestingly, I'm doing a lot of training on Zoom, like killer training, like 4-day classes. And I'm using a lot of this with Zoom. You can do a lot of it. You have to think about it a little differently and plan for it a little differently, but it's totally possible. But it's like Brett said, I use a lot more breakout rooms for that kind of thing, and then come back and have debriefs. One of the tricks that I've learned in doing these kind of things when you do the breakout is instead of using the Zoom whiteboard, have people use a Word document. Because if they do a Word document and share that on screen, then we can compile those really quickly. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll pull up my own Word document and I'll type in their results so that we can see what we have side by side as we go. So that's one thing that's helped me with it, because the Zoom whiteboard seems to get lost in space somewhere and people can't find it. But if they do a Word document, then it's really easy for us to work and compile those things together. And a lot of participants are getting really good at knowing how to put that link in chat, and we can link to their document, and then they can share each other's documents. So it's getting better all the time.
It's great.
And
Good
if you need
stuff.
some other tips, maybe that would be a class in itself, just doing it on Zoom, huh? 'Cause there's a lot you can do. I've been really excited about some of the things that we've been able to do. Good point.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned that I just sort of want to help clarify a little bit was you said that we need to really think through and plan these activities. And whenever you were discussing that early on, you were talking about even physical, problems that may need to be addressed or whatever. I think that's extremely important. It's a lot of times, I don't know about you, but I've made that mistake before, just not pre-planning it, thinking, hey, it's just going to be a Jeopardy game, it'll get on. And then you find out that even the questions that you brought to the table are so irrelevant instead of not being applied to what you're learning.
Oh yeah.
So I took a note on that personally to remember, stay focused on what your topic is or your team building activity might be addressing. So
Yeah, I mean, on Google, there's all the Jeopardy stuff is there, the format, and you write your own questions. I use that as a review exercise on Zoom. Actually, we play Jeopardy on Zoom because they can see the screen and they can select their category. So
it's good stuff.
yeah, you can play bingo on Zoom too. Yeah, there's really a lot you can do. It's
I guess the good news about Zoom is no one's going to hurt their ankle, right?
for real. That was awful. I felt so bad.
And don't assume everyone knows how to play the game too. Somebody just
Yeah.
said there, just said, make sure that you express that, I guess, and give the rules. And
Clear
you-
instructions, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Can't
Well,
assume.
If there's no other questions, I'm going to give it back to you.
Okay, let me show you a couple other things.
Sure.
Generating new ideas. This is tough for us because we're grown up. A lot of times it's really hard for us to come up with new ideas. And it's like, we've heard a lot in history of how people come up with great ideas. Sometimes like Duke Ellington, they said he wrote all of his stuff on trains. People say if I go for a walk, I get good ideas. For me, it seems to be the shower. I get good ideas in the shower. One thing that I've been successful with, if I'm working really hard with a team on a problem and it's just we're locked, they're not going anywhere, we take a break. Sometimes I'll send them out. I'll say, grab a partner, go outside and walk around together for 10 minutes and then come back and tell me what you thought of. And everything's refreshed. Or just take a break and do lunch, take a break and give them time to think about it. I mean, sometimes there are ways to do it, but if you need these ideas, these are the ones I found. The number one is while showering or taking a bath, so that works for me. But number two is while driving to work, people seem to come up with great ideas. There you go. While sitting on the toilet, see, we said there was no reason for that. Well, you get good ideas there. Sometimes when falling asleep or waking up, I know some people keep a pad by their bed, during a boring meeting. Boy, that's happened to me, right? During leisure reading, while exercising, in the middle of the night, while listening to a sermon, while performing manual labor. So there's some idea-friendly activities for you just in case you need them. And also, if you're trying to get creative with your team, you should know this. The best time for ideas, according to Chick Thompson, and What a Great Idea, is, well, let's see, 6 p.m. to midnight is the best time. That's when people get their best ideas. Now, you're probably not having your team meetings from 6 p.m. to midnight. So that's something to think about. But this is important for us. Noon to 6 p.m. is the worst. So morning meetings have a lot to be said for them. Sometimes what I'll hear leaders say is, I'm going to put such a tight timeline on this thing. I'm going to put the pressure on. We got to come up with an idea right now. And that momentum, that will push them forward. Well, momentum can be good, but not in the form of pressure. This is from the 6 Myths of Creativity in Fast Company, an article that appeared there. In our diary study, people often thought they were most creative when they were working under severe deadline pressure, but the 12,000 aggregate days that we studied showed just the opposite. People were least creative when fighting the clock. In fact, their creativity went down, not only on that day, but the next 2 days as well. And if you want to kill your great idea, There's lots of ways you can do that. Keep it quiet. Try to keep it a secret. Don't let anybody hear about it. Show a lack of commitment or run it through a committee. That's a good way to do it. Never look for a second answer. Make your delivery engaging. That's not right. That's how to create a great idea. I wrote that down backwards. Set unrealistic deadlines, hold lengthy meetings talking about it. Sometimes we have great ideas and we just find ways to kill it. This is why I say again, it's so important to have that consensus, to create a rally cry and have people leave feeling like they're on the same page. So we can take some final questions, but just want to remind you that today is team building activities. All of these have been recorded. So Joanne, don't worry, this one's been recorded. You'll be able to see the rest of it. And next week is the last in this series, and that'll be leading a team in a virtual world. So there you go. This will be all about the virtual world for it's R Swift. So is that Rob or Ron? It's for you, R.
Thank you.
Roger.
Okay. Final questions. What else can I talk to you about?
At the moment, I just want to make mention, just to bring Thomas into the conversation, and I appreciate so much his comments there. He says, so why am I attending these webinars so late? Since he's on the other side of the planet. And the best place to generate ideas for him is in the open sky or sea, in the open sea.
Oh,
I wish we all had that ability, Thomas. I'm just saying. Just catch it. I guess you and Lorna are the only ones close enough to the beach, I guess. So does anybody have any last minute questions or anything? Okay. All up to you.
okay. Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time, and I'll turn it back over to you, Brett.
Well, that was easy. Thank you so much, Lorna, again, for all of the amazing things that you bring to the table every time. I just cannot thank you enough. I look forward to the upcoming sessions that we have. In fact, let's go ahead and share some of those now. Coming up on the 14th, which, by the way, is a very special day for those of you who have Valentine's, whether it is your favorite mail person that delivers the mail, your pet, or that significant other that you need to be paying attention to. Go get flowers and chocolates or something, but let them know that you appreciate them and you want them to be your Valentine. And on Valentine's Day, we're going to have Intro to QBO, QuickBooks Online, Payroll Part 1 with Stacy Kendall, Managing Cash Flow During Periods of Uncertainty with Angela Randolph. And then on the 15th, we'll have Free Tools to Write Copy Better with Ashley Cook. And then Anna Hayes coming back with Communicating with Difficult Customers. That could be fun. I mean, none of us have difficult customers, right? But when we do, we'd like to be armed with good information on how to deal with it. Leading a team in a virtual world, Lorna Kibbe, as she just mentioned, is coming back, and we're happy to have that still in this month to come. Intro to QuickBooks Payroll Part 2. Again, with Stacy Kendall. We're looking forward to all of these things. And if that's not enough training for you, that QR code on your screen up in the top right will deliver you directly to a place where you can go straight and sign up on that website to get it on Eventbrite. We're happy to have you, and please extend that over to other people that you know that may need this training as well. We'd love to have as many people attend as possible. We do bring this to you at no charge so that everybody can participate. And with that, I want to thank a few people. We want to thank the Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, North Central SBDC Regional Office, North Central Texas College for making all of this happen. And we appreciate Lorna Kibbe coming and joining us today. And for more things, including signing up to speak with your own personal confidential advisor, please go to our website at sbdc.nctc.edu. And at the very bottom of the screen, it's just a simple click and it'll get you right there to get in line to be assigned to a person that will help you, and an advisor. We're happy to help. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have an amazing rest of your week.